Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. Night had fallen softly over Izumo, but something was wrong. The wind, which always carried the scent of the distant sea and the quiet breath of ancient gods, had vanished. Not weakened, not hidden, gone. The people of the village felt its absence like a missing heartbeat. For Izumo had always lived with wind. Warm winds that guided fishermen home. Playful winds that stirred the leaves of the sacred groves. Even fierce storms arrived with a kind of voice. Thunderous, wild, alive. But tonight, there was nothing. Not a whisper. Not a rustle. Not even the faintest sigh brushing across the rice fields. Just silence. A silence so complete that the world itself seemed to be holding its breath. Aiko stepped outside her family's small wooden home and looked up. The clouds hung low and heavy, thick, unmoving, gray like a curtain waiting to fall. "Strange," she whispered. "When the sky looks like this, there should be wind." But her voice felt too loud in the stillness. Aiko wrapped her arms around herself. The quiet pressed against her skin like a cold cloth. Every instinct told her something was wrong, that something was listening, and that something was missing. She walked toward the hill overlooking the village. The grass did not bend. The trees did not sway. The lantern flames did not flicker. Everything stood frozen. Aiko swallowed. "Where are you?" she whispered to the sky. At the top of the hill stood a small, weathered shrine, devoted to the wind kami who had long guarded the region. Its wooden beams creaked softly as Aiko approached, as though relieved someone had come. The offering's bowl was empty. The fabric charms hung lifeless. The sacred bell rope swayed only because Aiko touched it. She pulled it once. The bell rang, a single lonely chime. Aiko bowed. "Great wind kami of Izumo, if you hear me, something is wrong." Her voice cracked a little. "I don't know what to do." She waited. 1 second. 2. 10. But no breeze answered. No gentle whisper curled against her ear. No laughter of the wind brushed her cheek. Aiko lifted her head. "Please, if you're awake, give me a sign." Silence. Or rather, a silence so deep it felt like a sign in itself. Aiko turned to leave, but stopped. Someone stood at the base of the hill. A boy her age, dark hair, steady posture, eyes like distant storm clouds. Haru. He was known in the village for one strange gift. He could tell when storms were coming days before anyone else. He claimed he could feel the sky, its moods, its breath, its heartbeat. Aiko waved weakly. "Haru? What are you doing here?" He walked toward her, slow and purposeful. "The same as you," he said, "trying to understand why the wind has disappeared." Aiko nodded. "Have you ever felt anything like this?" "No." His voice was steady, but his hands were trembling. "Aiko," he said quietly, "the wind didn't just stop." She frowned. "What do you mean?" Haru stepped closer, close enough that she could see fear in his eyes, sharp and clear as broken glass. "It's not here anymore. She shivered. What could take the wind away? Haru looked at the unmoving sky. A storm. Aiko blinked. But storms are wind. Not this one, Haru whispered. This storm is silent. Thunder rolled across the clouds, soft, distant, like the murmur of a sleeping giant. Aiko jumped. There it is, she said, relieved. The winds will come soon. Haru shook his head. No. Did you hear it closely? Aiko frowned. What do you mean? Thunder always travels with wind, pushes it, shapes it, calls it. Aiko swallowed. But this thunder didn't move the air at all. The clouds churned in heavy spirals. Lightning flickered deep within their bellies, but made no sound. Haru's voice fell to a whisper. It's calling us. Aiko's stomach tightened. Calling us where? Haru pointed toward the distant mountains, their black silhouettes rising like teeth at the world's edge. To the source of the silence. Aiko stared at him. You want to go into the mountains tonight? No, Haru said quietly. I think we have to. Another flash of lightning lit the horizon. Aiko looked back at the shrine. Its wooden frame shuddered, not from wind, but from fear. Something had frightened even the wind kami. Aiko clenched her fists. If the wind is in danger, we can't just wait here. Haru nodded. I was hoping you'd say that. The two began walking toward the edge of the village, guided only by the heavy gray glow of the clouded sky. As they left the final lantern behind, Aiko felt a strange sensation in her chest, like a breath she had forgotten to take. Haru, she whispered, do you feel that? Yes, he said, voice steady. It's pressure, pressure, like the air is being held still by something large. Aiko felt it too, not a presence, but an absence, a silence so complete it pressed against her eardrums. Every few steps she checked the trees, hoping, begging for the smallest breeze. None came, not a whisper, not a sigh, not even a shiver of leaves. It was as if the entire world was waiting for something to arrive. They followed a narrow path that wound through a bamboo grove. Normally the bamboo would sway and sing, soft clacks echoing down the trails. Tonight, the stalks stood rigid like spears. Not a single leaf moved, but halfway through the grove, they found something, a strip of blue cloth, thin, frayed, hanging from a bamboo branch at shoulder height. Aiko touched it. This is a wind charm. Haru nodded grimly. It shouldn't be here. It's supposed to hang at the shrine, Aiko said. For the kami. For protection. Haru looked closer, then paled. Aiko, this charm wasn't blown here. But then, how did it get? It was placed here, Haru whispered, by something that wants us to follow. Aiko's heart pounded. But who? Thunder rolled again, this time directly above them. Aiko looked up. Lightning flashed, and for the briefest moment, she saw a shape in the clouds. Tall, human-like, but hollow, a figure made of storm clouds, with no wind to carry it. A storm without breath, a storm without voice, a storm that wanted to be heard. but could not speak. Aiko gasped. Haru, I think the storm is trying to tell us something. Haru nodded. I know. He swallowed hard. And I think we're the only ones who can hear it. Night deepened as Aiko and Haru traveled toward the mountains, following a world where nothing moved. Not air, not grass, not sound. The wind had vanished, leaving behind a silence that felt heavy and purposeful. They crossed a bamboo grove, entered an ancient forest, and eventually discovered a forgotten shrine, the Shrine of the First Wind. Inside, they found erased seals, stripped altars, and a presence waiting in the darkness. And then the silence itself took form. The field of pale grass at the edge of the forest should have been swaying. Instead, each blade stood rigid, as if time had pressed pause on the world. Aiko felt the stillness like a weight around her chest. Haru knelt to touch the ground. The air isn't just still, he murmured. It's trapped. Trapped by what? Aiko asked. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Thunder rumbled overhead again. Yet not a leaf trembled. They reached a narrow ravine where something enormous had struck the ground. Scorch marks surrounded the indent. This wasn't lightning, Haru said. Lightning makes sound. Lightning brings wind. Aiko whispered. Then what made it? Haru swallowed hard. A storm that fell from the sky. But storms don't fall. This one does, Haru said, because it's not really a storm. A pressure cold, heavy, spread across Aiko's shoulders. A soundless ringing filled her ears. Presence passed through the forest, but nothing moved. Haru's voice was barely audible. It's trying to talk, without breath. What kind of voice has no breath? Aiko whispered. The kind that once had one, Haru replied, and lost it. Deep in the woods they found an ancient shrine, the birthplace of the first wind in Izumo. Its altar was stripped. The prayer seals weren't broken. They had been erased. Haru, something was sealed here, Aiko said. And now it isn't, he replied. Lightning split the sky, yet it made no sound. What if the storm isn't a storm? Aiko whispered. What if it's what escaped? Candles lit themselves, no breeze, no spark. Aiko and Haru stepped back as a shape formed in the corner. Tall, hollow, dense like smoke but sharp like bone. A single pale slit opened in its head. Haru, is that the storm? No, Haru whispered. That's what the storm is hiding. It tilted its head toward them. And then the silence spoke. Give back a voice. What does it want? Aiko whispered. Haru trembled. The wind kami. It wants the kami's voice. Lightning flickered again, silent. It already took the voice, Haru said. The silent figure stepped closer. The shrine door slammed shut. The figure stretched a trembling hand toward them, thin, sharp, like smoke shaped into claws. Follow or be taken by silence. Then the room went pitch black. Darkness swallowed the shrine. Not ordinary darkness, but a suffocating void that felt heavy and alive. Aiko clung to Haru's hand as a faint blue flame appeared above the altar, guiding them toward a hidden wind-sealed door. Beneath the shrine, They discovered ancient corridors where all echoes died, leading to a sealed chamber once used to imprison something older than the wind kami. And then the silence woke. The blue flame hovered above the altar's carving, a wind seal. As Aiko touched it, a crack formed, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. This shrine wasn't for worship, Haru whispered. It was built to contain something. Then the thing that escaped, Aiko began, is what the kami sealed long ago. The altar slid open. A cold, windless breath drifted out. They descended. The deeper they went, the colder the air became, not ice, but absence. Wind seals carved along the walls were faded and dying. Why are the seals weakening? Aiko asked. Because whatever escaped fed on wind, Haru said. Wind carries breath, memory, sound. Without wind, the seals can't speak. They can't hold anything. So the prison unmade itself, Aiko whispered. They reached a massive stone door vibrating like a hollow heartbeat. This was the prison, Haru said. And the kami's voice was the key, Aiko added. Lightning flashed behind the door, silent. It used the kami's stolen voice to escape, Haru whispered. Aiko stepped closer. What is this thing? A void wind, Haru said. A wind that should never have existed. Before the first breeze, before the world learned to speak. There was the void. A wind without voice. Aiko trembled. And it wants the kami's voice so it can finally speak. And once it does, Haru warned, it will consume every other voice to keep its own. A tremor shook the chamber. The blue flame descended into Aiko's hand. Warmth spread into her chest, an awakening pressure. Aiko, you have wind inside you, Haru whispered. It's small, she said, but alive. The stone door cracked open. A violent silence burst outward. A single pale slit appeared through the darkness. The same one from the shrine. It blinked. Give back the wind. The door exploded outward. The stone door exploded in silence. Dust froze in the air as the void wind, hollow, shifting, its single white slit glowing, emerged. Aiko and Haru faced a storm that had no breath, no sound, and no voice of its own. The creature moved with pressure instead of motion, its silence drilling into their bones. Voice stolen. Give wind back. Aiko felt the tiny wind flame inside her glow brighter. Haru realized what it was. The stolen breath of the wind kami, now carried within Aiko. The void wind wanted it returned. The creature's silent pressure shook the room. Haru whispered, it wants what's inside you, the kami's breath. Aiko stared, trembling. Then the wind kami. Where is it? In there, Haru said, pointing to the chamber beyond the shattered door. Before Aiko could react, the void wind lunged. Aiko and Haru dove aside as the creature's pressure wave crushed stone silently behind them. Nothing echoed. Nothing moved except the force of silence. Aiko, use your wind, Haru shouted. I don't know how, but Haru pressed her hands together. Wind doesn't start in the air. It starts in your chest. Aiko felt it, a small swirl of motion, a living breath. Wind bloomed in her palms for the first time. But the void wind appeared behind them instantly. Haru stepped in front of Aiko. Glowing markings, ancient wind seals, appeared along his arm. Haru, what are you? Aiko whispered. A wind-favored, he said. I can hear storms, and it knows. The void wind reached for him. A blade of silence struck Haru's chest. He collapsed, breath shallow. Haru, I'll be fine, he whispered. You have the Kami's wind, not me. The creature approached, ready to take Aiko's breath. Aiko stepped forward. Wind swirled at her feet. Stay away from him. The creature paused, recognizing the spark within her. Aiko raised her hand. Wind spiraled blue from her palm. She struck the void wind, knocking it back. Staggered. For the first time. I did it! But her wind faded quickly. The silence pressed in, crushing her lungs. She collapsed. The creature reached for her. Then, a whisper, a breath, a voice. From behind the door, the wind Kami. Haru forced out, Aiko. That's the Kami. Aiko crawled toward the sound, the faint breeze calling her name. Aiko. The void wind lunged. Aiko reached. Wind erupted in a blinding burst of blue, and the world vanished into white. The silent wind of Izumo. The night the storm wouldn't speak. White light swallowed everything. When Aiko opened her eyes, she was in a vast hidden chamber beneath the shrine, lit by a soft blue glow. Haru was nowhere in sight. At the far wall, in front of a broken wind seal, a figure of pale, wavering light sat slumped, flickering like a dying candle. The wind Kami. When the Kami touched Aiko's chest, where the small wind flame pulsed inside her, a vision flooded her mind. Before storms, before even the first breeze, there was only silence, pure and complete. From the Kami's first spoken words, the world's first wind was born. But something else formed in the gaps between those words. A shadow of wind made from the pause between sounds. A wind without breath. A wind that was never meant to be. A void wind. It followed the Kami's storms, hungering for a voice. When prayers and chants filled the sky, it trembled, desperate to join them. But it had no way to speak. The Kami sealed it beneath the first wind shrine, using his own voice and the world's winds to bind it. As centuries passed and people forgot the old prayers, the seals weakened. The Kami came alone to hold it down. The void wind reached for him and stole his breath. The wind Kami lost his voice. The silent storm was born. Back in the chamber, the Kami's form flickered. He couldn't speak, but Aiko understood. The last fragment of his true wind, his living breath, was hidden inside her. You trusted me to carry it, she whispered. He traced a spiral on her hand, a symbol of choosing. Above them, cracks split the chamber. The cold silence returned. The void wind was descending. Aiko stepped in front of the fading Kami as the void wind slid into the room. Hollow, shifting, its slit eye burning softly. Voice stolen. Give wind back. Haru stumbled through a collapsing corridor, badly wounded but alive. Aiko, don't let it near him, he shouted. Aiko stared up at the creature. You weren't born with wind, she said. You weren't born with voice. You stole his. The creature trembled, silence pulsing. Want voice? Aiko saw the longing behind its hollow shape. It didn't want to destroy the world. It wanted to belong to it. What if I can give you a voice? She whispered. Without stealing his, Aiko placed one hand on her chest, feeling the kami's wind flame. With the other, she reached toward the void wind. Haru cried out, Aiko, no! But she stepped closer. The wind flame swelled, forming a spiral of blue light in her palm. She didn't give it all, just a piece, a single note of wind. The light moved from her hand into the creature. The void wind recoiled, form flickering. The silence around it cracked. Then, for the first time, it made a sound, a small, fragile breath, a whispered exhale that belonged to it, not stolen, given. You can speak now, Aiko said softly. If you choose not to hurt him anymore. The creature's slit dimmed. Then it bowed its head, just slightly. For a heartbeat, peace held. The mountain shook. Cracks raced through the ceiling. Dust rained down. Haru's eyes widened. Aiko, the mountain is collapsing. The kami's gaze lifted toward the cracks above, sorrowful. Another sound rolled in. Not silence, not void wind, but a storm, a true storm. Thunder without guidance. Clouds without a kami to steer them. A storm with no one to control it. Haru breathed. The silent storm itself was coming down the mountain. The void wind trembled, its new breath unsteady, as if it too sensed the danger. Aiko felt the kami's last message inside her. Only you can calm what has lost its voice. The wind flame inside her swelled. The chamber shattered. Rock gave way. Aiko grabbed for Haru. The void wind wrapped around them both, and the world fell. The silent wind of Izumo, the night the storm wouldn't speak. Aiko fell through silence, landing on a rocky plateau inside the collapsing mountain. Haru lay nearby, barely conscious. The void wind flickered weakly. Above them, a vast vortex of gray clouds descended. The silent storm, a storm with no kami to guide it. If it reached Izumo, the valley would be erased. Aiko pressed a trembling hand to her chest, feeling the wind flame blaze brighter than ever. We stop it, she whispered. The void wind hovered beside her, uncertain, but listening. Together, she said. The storm descended. The silent storm crashed upon the plateau, a wall of silent pressure tearing stone apart. Aiko struggled to stand as Haru shouted warnings behind her. You can't fight it. Even the kami couldn't. Aiko held her ground. He wasn't alone, and neither am I. She reached for the void wind. It trembled, but took her hand. Wind surged inside her chest, a bright blue spiral. The void wind straightened. The storm pulsed violently. Now, Aiko whispered. They pushed back. A silent blast hit them. The void wind shielded Aiko, its new breath flickering like a candle in a hurricane. Aiko grabbed it. "You're not alone." Her wind flame brightened, feeding the creature's strength. Wind, Real wind, spiraled from her palms, blue and alive. The silent storm recoiled. Aiko gasped. "It's working." Lightning crashed silently, nearly breaking the void wind's form. Aiko pulled it close, pressing her forehead to its hollow chest. "Let me share my breath with you." It shuddered, then breathed, a soft, fragile exhale. Together they faced the storm. Aiko lifted both hands. "You have no kami," she shouted. "No voice, no breath." The vortex quivered. "But you have a name." A word echoed inside her chest. Ancient, forgotten. "Izuke's," she called out. The storm froze. Lightning twisted in place. Wind howled without sound. Aiko stepped forward. "Remember who you were." Her wind flame erupted. A beam of blue wind shot into the sky. The storm shuddered, then collapsed into a spiral of living wind. A breeze brushed her cheek. "Thank you," it whispered. The silent storm had remembered itself. The mountain cracked open and the wind kami rose. Faint, flickering, but alive. Aiko rushed to him. "Kami-sama!" He touched her cheek. A tiny breeze brushed her skin, the first word he had spoken in days. Haru bowed deeply. The kami turned to the void wind. Instead of destroying it, he placed a hand upon its head, offering acceptance. "Child of silence," he whispered. The void wind bowed, filled with a soft, trembling breath. It had found a place in the world. When Aiko and Haru emerged from the mountain, the first breeze swept across the valley. Children laughed as wind stirred their sleeves. Lantern flames danced. Leaves rustled. Izumo breathed again. The kami stood upon the ridge, voice faint but returning. Aiko bowed. "Thank you for trusting me." Haru took her hand. "We saved them." Aiko shook her head gently. "We saved each other." The void wind drifted beside the kami, no longer hollow, but filled with a new name, a new breath. Wind brushed past Aiko, carrying a final whisper. "Thank you." Aiko smiled at the sky. "Thank you for listening to Sleep with Myth."